40 people were standing in my son's living room, holding expensive champagne, laughing and celebrating his big promotion. My wife Martha was standing near the fireplace, holding a handmade quilt she spent 6 months stitching just for this occasion. And then the room went completely dead. My daughter-in-law Jessica pointed her finger squarely at the front door, looked at my wife, and told her to get out of her house. She said it loudly, she said it clearly, and my son, my own flesh and blood, just stared at his shoes and took a sip of his drink. He did not say a word to defend his mother. I did not yell. I did not flip tables. I slowly walked over, took my trembling wife by the hand, and I looked around that room and said one single thing. And let me tell you, that one sentence destroyed everything my son thought he had built. Welcome back to Dad's Silent Revenge. If you are new here, take a seat, grab a cup of coffee, or maybe something a little stronger, because tonight's story is going to make your blood boil. We talk a lot about family on this channel, about loyalty and respect. But what happens when the boy you raised watches his wife break his mother heart and does absolutely nothing to stop it? Let me tell you exactly what happens. It was a chilly Friday evening in late October. The wind was coming off the lake, howling through the streets of our small Michigan town. Martha and I arrived at David's house early. David is my son. He just turned 40, and his interior design firm had just landed a massive contract with the city. Jessica, his wife of 6 years, decided to throw a massive party to show off. She invited local politicians, real estate developers, all the high society folks she desperately wanted to impress. Martha wore her best blue dress, the one she bought 5 years ago but keeps pristine in the closet. She is a simple woman. She does not care about flashy cars or designer bags. She cares about love. She cares about effort. That is why she spent every evening since spring sewing a beautiful, intricate quilt for David. It had pieces of fabric from his childhood, his old baseball jerseys, his college colors. It was a masterpiece of a mother love. When we walked in, Jessica looked at us like we had just tracked mud onto her white carpets. She quickly ushered us to a corner, far away from the local mayor and the wealthy investors. Martha did not mind. She just smiled, clutching that heavy gift box, waiting for the right moment to give it to her boy. The moment never came. Around 8 in the evening, Jessica called everyone to the center of the room for a toast. She talked about success and vision. Martha stepped forward with her box, her eyes shining with pride, and quietly offered the gift to David. Jessica intercepted it. She looked at the wrapping, looked at Martha, and sighed loudly. She told Martha that they do not have room for dusty old blankets in their modern home. Martha's face dropped. She whispered that it was a family heirloom. That is when Jessica snapped. She raised her voice so everyone could hear. She said she was tired of Martha bringing trash into her pristine house. She pointed at the heavy oak door. She told my wife to get out, to leave and stop embarrassing them in front of important people. I watched my wife's shoulders collapse. I watched the absolute devastation wash over her face. The room was so quiet you could hear the wind beating against the glass windows. 40 people were holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I looked directly at my son, David, the boy I taught to ride a bike, the boy I stayed up with when he had a fever, the man I helped finance through college and business school. I waited for him to step up. I waited for him to put his drink down, look at his wife, and tell her she crossed a line. I waited for him to act like a man. He looked at the floor. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He took a sip of his scotch. He chose his pride and his wife over the woman who gave him life. A cold, dark weight settled into the bottom of my stomach. It was not a sudden burst of anger. It was a terrifying, absolute clarity. I realized right then that the son I raised was gone. In his place stood a coward dressed in an expensive suit. I walked across the room. The guests parted for me like the Red Sea. Nobody made eye contact. I reached Martha. Her hands were ice cold and shaking uncontrollably. I placed my arm around her frail shoulders and pulled her close to my chest. I turned to look at Jessica, who stood there with a smug look of victory on her face. And then I looked at David. I did not scream. I did not curse. I spoke in a voice so calm and quiet it echoed through that massive room. I said, "This is the last time you will ever have to ask us to leave." I did not wait for a response. I guided Martha toward the door. As we walked out, The silence was broken by the sound of glass being set down on tables. Behind us, I heard heavy footsteps. It was Arthur Higgins, the biggest commercial developer in the county, and a man I had known for 30 years. He walked right past David, did not say a word, and headed out the door behind us. Then came Thomas Miller, the bank manager. Then came 3 other couples. One by one, the people who actually mattered in that room realized what they had just witnessed. They realized what kind of man David truly was. By the time I started my car engine in the driveway, 12 people had walked out of my Sun house. The drive home was unbearable. The streetlights flickered across the windshield, casting long shadows inside the car. Martha did not cry. She just stared out the window into the dark, holding her hands tightly in her lap. The silence between us was heavier than concrete. I wanted to tell her it would be okay. I wanted to tell her David would call and apologize. But I am not a liar. I knew David would not call. I knew he would justify it. When we finally pulled into our small garage, Martha did not get out of the car right away. She sat there in the dark, listening to the hum of the engine. Finally, she turned to me. Her voice was cracked and hollow. She said, "Robert, this is not the first time she has done this." My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I turned off the engine and looked at my wife. The dam broke. The truth was finally about to come out, and the nightmare was just beginning. We walked into the kitchen. I turned on the small light above the stove. Martha sat at the wooden table, the same table where David used to do his homework. She did not take off her coat. She just sat there and let the tears finally fall. I poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from her. I asked her what she meant in the car. I asked her how long our son had been letting his wife treat her like dirt. The voice of Martha shook as she told me. She said it started 3 years ago. Small things at first. Jessica making comments about the clothes Martha wore, saying she looked too working class to be seen at their country club dinners. Then it escalated. Jessica told Martha to stop calling David during business hours because she was an annoying distraction. The worst part, the part that made my blood run ice cold, was Thanksgiving last year. We did not go because Martha said she had a severe flu. It was a lie. Martha told me that Jessica had called her the day before and strictly forbid her from bringing her famous pecan pie. Jessica said it was too cheap and would ruin the aesthetic of her catered dinner. Martha was so heartbroken she faked being sick just to avoid the humiliation. And David knew. He knew all of it. Every single time Jessica belittled my wife, David was either in the room or told about it later. He chose to keep the peace with his wife by sacrificing the dignity of his own mother. I sat at that kitchen table for a long time after Martha went to bed. The clock on the wall kept ticking. 1 in the morning. 2. 3. I did not feel angry anymore. Anger is loud. Anger is messy. What I felt was focused. David thought he was an independent, successful man. He thought he built his empire all by himself. He forgot who poured the foundation. It was time to remind him. Let me explain something about the interior design and commercial real estate business in a place like our Michigan town. It is not about how pretty your drawings are. It is not about the fancy software you use. It is about who trusts you. It is about handshakes, loyalty, and reputation. The firm of my son, Modern Horizons, grew extremely fast over the last 5 years. He had 3 big commercial developers feeding him constant work. Restaurants, office buildings, boutique hotels. He made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. He drove a luxury car and lived in a house with a heated driveway. But David did not get those clients because of his brilliant eye for color. He got them because his last name is Sullivan. My name is Robert Sullivan. I spent 40 years working as a commercial property inspector and regional zoning consultant. Every major developer in a 50-mile radius knows me. We fished together. We attended family funerals together. When David started his firm, he had no portfolio and 0 credibility. So I made the calls. I called Arthur Higgins. I called Marcus Thorne. I called the city planners. I vouched for my son. I told them that a Sullivan stands behind his work. I put my 40 years of sweat and spotless reputation on the line so my boy could get his foot in the door. They hired him because they respected me. David took those introductions, built his business, and somehow convinced himself he did it all on his own merit. He forgot that the only reason he was sitting at the big table was because I pulled out the chair for him. Monday morning rolled around. The wind outside was bitter cold, stripping the last of the autumn leaves from the trees. I put on my good suit, the one I wear for weddings and board meetings. I did not call David. I did not scream at him over the phone. I drove downtown. I was going to systematically dismantle the protective wall I had built around him. I was taking my name back. The office of Arthur Higgins sits on the top floor of the tallest building in our town. I have been walking into that building for 20 years. The receptionist knows my name. She asked about Martha and offered me black coffee. I took the coffee and walked straight back to the corner office. Arthur was looking over some blueprints. When he saw me, he smiled wide and stood up to shake my hand. He asked how the birthday party went. He was supposed to be there but had a flight back from Chicago. I set my coffee down on his massive oak desk. I looked him dead in the eye and told him it was a disaster. I told him exactly what happened. I told him how Jessica treated Martha. And more importantly, I told him how David just sat there and let it happen. Arthur is a man from my generation. He has been married to his wife for 40 years. When I told him the story, the smile completely vanished from his face. He sat back in his heavy leather chair and let out a long breath. I leaned forward. I told Arthur that I was not there to ask for a favor. I was there to give him a professional update. I told him that as of that morning, Robert Sullivan was no longer vouching for Modern Horizons. I told him my son was flying solo, and my name was officially off the table. Arthur looked at the blueprints on his desk. They were for the new Lakeside Hotel project, a multi-million-dollar development. David was supposed to get the interior design contract next month. Arthur slowly rolled up the blueprints. He looked at me and said, "I understand, Robert. Family comes first. If a man cannot respect his own mother, I cannot trust him with my money." I shook his hand and left. My next stop was Marcus Thorne. Marcus controls all the boutique commercial spaces near the river. Same conversation. No anger, no yelling. Just a calm statement of fact. I told Marcus that my son had forgotten the value of loyalty. Marcus canceled a lunch meeting he had scheduled with David for that Friday. I spent 4 hours visiting the 5 biggest players in our local industry. I did not ask anyone to fire David. I did not ask them to ruin his life. I did not spread nasty rumors. I simply took back the blanket of protection and trust that I had draped over his shoulders for 5 years. In this town, business is not just about contracts. It is about character. When the men with the real money found out that David let his wife humiliate the woman who gave birth to him, they did not want to sit across a table from him ever again. The strings were cut. Now, I just had to wait for gravity to do the rest. November arrived with a brutal cold that froze the lake and turned the skies gray. For the first 2 weeks, nothing seemed to change. David still drove his expensive German car. He still went to his fancy downtown office. He still had 3 active projects keeping his staff busy. But in the construction and development world, survival is all about the pipeline. You need the next job lined up before the current one finishes. And the pipeline of David was suddenly bone dry. Through my old colleagues, I heard exactly what was happening. David submitted a massive proposal for a downtown restaurant renovation. The owner is a good friend of Marcus Thorne. Normally, David would get a fast-track approval. This time, his proposal was mailed back to him unread. The job went to a firm out of Grand Rapids. Then came the Lakeside Hotel, the contract David had been bragging about for 6 months. Arthur Higgins had his secretary call David to inform him they were going in a different direction. They did not even give him a meeting to negotiate. They just shut the door in his face. The panic started to set in. You see, David and Jessica lived way above their means. They had a massive mortgage on that house. They had 2 luxury car leases. They paid thousands a month for their country club membership. They needed a constant flow of massive checks just to keep the lights on. My phone did not ring. David did not call me to ask for help. He was too proud. Or maybe he just thought it was a temporary streak of bad luck. But Martha knew. One evening, Martha and I were sitting by the fireplace. The wind was howling outside. She was knitting quietly. She looked up at me and asked if I had heard from our son. I told her no. She asked if his business was doing okay. I looked at the fire and spoke softly. I told her that his business was like a tree with dead roots. It was still standing, but it was not drinking any water. It was only a matter of time before the wind blew it over. Martha closed her eyes. She did not ask me to stop. She did not ask me to save him. The pain Jessica caused her, and the betrayal of David, had cut too deep. She finally understood that some lessons have to be learned the hard way. By Thanksgiving, the panic of David turned into desperation. I heard he had to let go of 2 junior designers because he could not make payroll. His phone stopped ringing. People stopped returning his emails. The invisible wall I built around him was gone, and the cold reality of the business world was freezing him out. The drought was here, and Jessica was starting to realize that the endless river of money was drying up. It happened 2 weeks before Christmas. The snow was falling heavy, piling up on the driveway. I was in the garage, running a cloth over my old workbench. The heater was humming in the corner. Then, I heard tires sliding on the ice. I heard the heavy slam of a car door. David walked right into the garage. He did not knock. He did not say hello. He looked like he had not slept in days. His face was red from the cold and the anger. He stood there, breathing hard, and demanded to know what I was doing to his life. I kept wiping down the workbench. I did not raise my head. I told him I was not doing anything to his life. I was just living mine. He stepped closer. He raised his voice. He said Arthur Higgins pulled out of the hotel project. He said Marcus Thorne would not even answer his emails. He accused me of calling my friends and poisoning the well. He said I was trying to bankrupt him just because of one stupid party. I stopped wiping the table. I set the cloth down. I turned to look at my son. I told him he was half right. I did make some calls. But I did not poison anything. I did not tell Arthur or Marcus that he was a bad designer. I did not say he was lazy or incompetent. All I did was tell them the absolute truth. I told them I was no longer vouching for his character. David looked at me like I had just slapped him. He asked why I would do that to my own flesh and blood. He said he worked hard for those contracts. I kept my voice low and steady. I told him he worked hard on the designs. Yes, but the contracts, the trust, those belong to me. I loaned them to him. And when a man lets his wife publicly humiliate his own mother, and just sits there staring at his shoes, that man loses his privileges. I told him I was just calling in my loan. David started pacing around the cold garage. He ran a hand through his hair. He tried to make excuses. He said Jessica was just stressed about hosting. He said Martha was being too sensitive about a stupid blanket. He said I did not understand how much pressure he was under to keep his wife happy. Every word out of his mouth made my chest feel tighter. He was still protecting her. He was still throwing his mother under the bus to save his own skin. I asked him if he knew that Jessica had forbidden Martha from coming to Thanksgiving last year. I asked if he knew she called his mother cheap and embarrassing behind our backs. David stopped pacing. He looked away. He knew. My son knew exactly what was happening, and he let it happen. The anger finally burned out of me, leaving nothing but cold disappointment. I told him he was a coward, and in my world, cowards do not get to ride on my coattails. The wind rattled the garage door. David stood perfectly still for a long moment. When he finally looked back at me, his eyes were hard. The guilt was gone. The survival instinct took over. He realized I was not going to back down. He realized I was not going to make the calls to fix this. He puffed out his chest. He tried to use the only leverage he had left. He told me that if I did not fix this, if I let his business go under, Jessica was going to leave him. He said she was already talking about moving back to Chicago if the money dried up. He looked me right in the eye and said it would be my fault if his marriage failed. I almost felt sorry for him. I crossed my arms and leaned against the cold metal of the tool cabinet. I told David that if his wife was only staying because of the money, he did not have a marriage in the first place. I told him he was paying a hostage fee, and the ransom was his dignity. He did not want to hear that. The truth is a bitter pill when you have been swallowing lies for years. He took a step toward the door. He pointed a finger at me, just like his wife had pointed at Martha. David said, if I let his business die, I was dead to him. He said I would never see him again. He said when he and Jessica had children, Martha and I would never be allowed to meet our grandchildren. He laid it all out on the table, a direct threat. Choose his business, or lose a son forever. He thought that would break me. He thought the idea of losing him would make me pick up the phone and beg Arthur Higgins to give him the hotel contract. He was waiting for me to apologize and beg for mercy. I looked at the boy I raised. I remembered teaching him how to cast a fishing line. I remembered cheering in the stands at his high school football games. I remembered the pride I felt when he opened his office. All of those memories flashed through my mind in a split second. And then, I let them go. I looked back at him. My voice did not shake. I told him that I lost my son the night of that party. I told him the man standing in my garage was just a stranger wearing his face. I told him to get in his car, go back to his wife, and figure out how to be a man on his own. David stared at me. He was waiting for a punchline. He was waiting for me to crack. But I just turned around, picked up my cloth, and started wiping the workbench again. I did not watch him leave. I just listened to the heavy footsteps, the slam of the car door, and the sound of his tires spinning on the ice as he sped away. The garage went quiet again. The heater kept humming. I knew I had just signed the death warrant for his company, and I knew my wife was going to cry when I told her. But a man has to draw a line in the sand, and David had chosen to stand on the wrong side. Winter turned into a muddy spring. The ice on the Great Lakes slowly melted away. But the freeze over the business of my son only grew deeper and more permanent. Without my name backing him, David could not secure a single new commercial contract. He tried pivoting to residential homes. He tried driving to the next county over to bid on smaller jobs. But bad news travels fast in a Michigan town. People talk at the diners. People talk at the hardware store. They heard that Arthur Higgins and Marcus Thorne dropped him like a bad habit. They assumed there was something fundamentally rotten with his work, or worse, his character. By the time April rolled around, Modern Horizons was bleeding cash from every single artery. I did not have to spy on him. I did not want to. In a community this size, tragedy is a public spectacle whether you want to watch or not. Thomas Miller, the manager at the local bank, happens to be a good friend of mine. We were having coffee one morning at the diner. He did not break any legal privacy laws, but he did mention that the commercial real estate market was seeing a sudden spike in foreclosures. He gave me a very long, very sad look over his coffee mug and told me to keep a close eye on my family. I felt a heavy weight in my chest. I knew exactly what he meant. The financial walls were caving in. David had to close his beautiful downtown office in late May. He let go of his remaining staff. He tried to run the ashes of his business out of his massive house. But there was no business left to run. The phone stopped ringing completely. And that is exactly when Jessica showed the world who she truly was. She did not stand by him. She did not offer to get a job to help pay the heavy mortgage. When the luxury cars were quietly repossessed in the middle of the night, she packed her expensive bags. It took exactly 3 weeks of being broke for the endless love of her life to completely expire. She filed for divorce in early June. I heard the brutal details from a mutual acquaintance at the country club. Jessica did not just leave him, she verbally destroyed him. She told him he was a complete failure. She screamed that she did not sign up to be the wife of a bankrupt loser in a dying town. She took whatever cash was left in their joint checking accounts, hired a vicious lawyer from the city, and moved back to Chicago without looking back once. She left him sitting totally alone in an empty, massive house that the bank was preparing to take from him. David chose her over his own mother. He sacrificed the dignity of Martha to keep Jessica happy and comfortable. He let his wife treat the woman who raised him like garbage because he was absolutely terrified of losing her. And in the end, she left him anyway, over a few missed car payments. It was a brutal, agonizing lesson in loyalty. But it was a lesson he desperately needed to learn. I watched his empire crumble from a distance. I did not step in to save him. The fall of the house was absolute and complete. It was late August when I finally saw my son again. The summer heat was thick and unforgiving, and the air was filled with the loud buzzing of cicadas. I was sitting on my wooden front porch with a glass of iced tea, watching the evening sun dip below the tree line. A beat-up blue sedan pulled into my driveway. It was not the shiny German luxury car he used to drive. It was a cheap rental. The engine sputtered before it died. David stepped out. I almost did not recognize him. He looked 10 years older. He was dangerously thin. His shoulders were slumped forward. And he did not have that arrogant spark in his eyes anymore. The expensive suit was gone. He was wearing faded jeans and a wrinkled shirt. He walked up the wooden porch steps very slowly. He did not ask to come inside. He did not try to shake my hand. He just stood there, looking down at the porch floorboards like a beaten dog. He told me the bank officially took the house. He told me the divorce was finalized and Jessica took half of whatever nothing he had left to his name. He said he was currently living in a small, cramped apartment on the edge of town, working as a junior draftsman for a company he used to compete with. I took a slow sip of my iced tea. The ice clinked against the glass. I looked at him and asked him why he was telling me all of this. He finally looked up at me. His eyes were red and swollen. He said he was sorry. He said he realized way too late that I was completely right. He said Jessica never actually respected him. She only respected the lifestyle he could buy for her. He told me he was sick with guilt over how he treated Martha at that party. He asked if he could see her. He asked if there was any possible way we could ever be a family again. I set my glass down on the small table next to my chair. I looked at the broken man standing in front of me. I did not feel a sense of triumph. I did not feel joy or vindication. I just felt a quiet, heavy sadness in my bones. I told him that Martha was inside the kitchen. I told him he could go inside right now and apologize to her face to face. But I also told him the hard, cold truth. I told him that forgiveness does not magically mean things go back to the way they were before. I looked deep into his eyes, and I said, "You can sit at our dinner table again, David. But you will never hold the exact same place in my heart. Trust is like a pristine mirror. You can glue the shattered pieces back together, but you will always see the ugly cracks in the reflection for the rest of your life." He nodded slowly. A single tear ran down his dirty cheek. He finally understood the weight of his choices. He walked past me, opened the front screen door, and walked inside to face his mother. It was not a happy, fairy tale ending. It was just the harsh reality of facing the consequences of your own weakness. We are rebuilding now. Very slowly. David comes over on Sunday afternoons. He helps me mow the lawn and fix things around the house. He is quiet. He is humbled. He learned the hard way that the only people who will stand by you when the money is gone are the exact ones you took for granted. What do you think about all this, folks? Did I go way too far with my silent revenge? Should I have stepped in and saved his business before he lost everything he worked for? Or was letting him hit absolute rock bottom the only real way to make him a decent man? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Thank you for spending your evening listening to my story. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now if you value real loyalty and respect in your family. Until next time, this is Dad's Silent Revenge, reminding you to always protect the ones who truly love you. Good night and God bless.